This is the Game of Life. Welcome to the Game of Life. I'm your host, Gail Nelson, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Miami, and I am so pleased to have with us as we start Black History Month, as we talk about giving back to the community and really celebrating legacy partners. Wells Fargo. I have with me today Pat Morris, Community Affairs Officer, South Florida, and Bill Jones, Senior Vice President, Senior Fiduciary Advisory Specialist from Wells Fargo. Gentlemen, welcome to the Game of Life.
Yeah, great to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, no, it's an absolute pleasure. I must say, I'll say it again throughout this podcast. We started this podcast to really talk about relationships, positive relationships with community leaders, with great brands, but what Wells Fargo has meant to Big Brothers, Big Sisters through board leadership, through the investment and the philanthropy of Wells Fargo. Thank you, thank you, thank you on behalf of the kids.
Thank you, Gail, for all the work you guys do and your staff here and all the volunteers that make this such an amazing organization.
Well, Pat, let's talk about that. And when I think about all the ways Wells Fargo has invested specifically in Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and also in other nonprofits throughout South Florida, why is corporate citizenship so important to the Wells Fargo brand?
Yeah, and so it goes back to the real foundation of who we are as an organization. We're only as good as the communities in which we're investing in, and our branches are in, our lines of business that operate in it. And so that is a mindset that really comes from the top of the organization and it's part of our DNA, it's part of our culture. We, over many years, have been different banks, and, First Union to Wachovia to Wells Fargo. And it has probably never been stronger than at this point in time, the last several years, where the encouragement of being involved in the community and making an impact in the communities. It is not just about the grant. That's important. We gave out 230 grants to different organizations from Palm Beach to Key West last year. But it's about the relationships, about a Bill Jones who's been on your board for a number of years.
Absolutely.
And other organizations in the education space where we've had literally, 12, 15, 24 years of service on boards of either a person or over that many years, different people. And so it's the board leadership that we bring, it's that talent that we bring, and it's also the real way to engage our team members in service. And, we've got plenty of bigs that are working with you every day, and there's a lot of other ways in which we bring our talent to support the work that you do and to many other organizations.
Well, from an educational standpoint, Wells Fargo gets an A+ in corporate citizenship, so you're making the grade. Let's maintain that.
We appreciate that.
Keep studying hard.
We're going to keep doing that.
And keep giving back, because it is absolutely going to some great causes, and we certainly are very appreciative of that. Speaking of board leadership, Bill, you have served on the agency board of directors, currently on the foundation board of directors, with such a long leadership history. And you could spend your time doing a lot of things. Why Big Brothers, Big Sisters, sir?
It's been between the two different boards for the agency, it's been a total of over 14 years.
14 years. You haven't aged a bit.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay. We'll go with that. Anyway, starting out early on just with committee memberships and at one point board chair and now on the foundation board, I've seen the organization grow and mature and the work and how just the sheer number of people that are touched by the agency. I mean, I remember 14 plus years ago, we were excited when we, if we hit 800 children served, and now we're well in the thousands.
Yes.
And to see that impact and to see, under your leadership and to see the growth of the agency and the impact it's having in the community is amazing. I got involved because I wanted to make a difference, and I actually looked at a lot of different organizations and was trying to figure out, which ones aligned with my interests, but also which ones really had an impact. And when I met with different people at Big Brothers, Big Sisters, many of which are still involved, 14 years later, which also speaks of legacy. I mean, you have board members that are 20 plus years that still are just as committed as the day they started. But, the impact of mentoring, trying to, what I'll say, break the cycle, there's just thousands of youth just in Miami-Dade who, want to do better and they just don't know how, or their parents don't know how. They don't have the resources. A lot of them, as you know, are single parents and struggling to manage the household, and they don't have sometimes the time to do the extra things. So, my involvement with the organization really comes from a personal point of concern, trying to break that cycle and trying to help others who want to be helped.
That's special. And Bill, let's stay on. Speaking of impact, you're an alumni Big Brother, and obviously when I remember when you called me and said, I'm going to sign up to be a Big, because that's not a board requirement for all potential board members that are listening. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the social media channels. Just to be clear, you can be a donor and not be a board member. You can be a Big and not be a board member, or you can be all of the above. I think I just did my job there, Bill. But your impact as a Big Brother, what does that experience teach you?
It's been amazing, and I still keep in touch with. His name is Sakori,
yes.
And I still keep in touch with Sakori. He is, a really fine young man who faced challenges early on, and when I was first matched with him, he was at Miami-Dade Charter School downtown, and really was struggling in school. Was having some outbursts, having trouble. Playing nice with others in his class, and it was interesting because his mother was working 2 jobs, didn't have a car, and so one time when he had an outburst, they actually called me because my office was right next door, so I kind of ran over, and I've seen him over the years just mature, calm down, gain some confidence, and it's the little things. Gail, I've shared the story with you a couple times over the years, but the things that we take for granted, many of us take for granted in our daily lives. His favorite thing to do when he was younger was to go to the car wash. As I said, they never had a car, and so a car wash was like a really special thing for him. How to use silverware, how to hold silverware, just wasn't part of something that he was learning at home.
Right.
How to shake hands, how to have eye contact, it's just so many things that we don't, that people that, are exposed to a broader range of experiences learn one way or taught one way or the other. And he just wasn't. He didn't have a father figure in his life, and he didn't learn so many things. And so the part that was so scary for me at the beginning is, what am I going to do? It was easy, because you don't realize how important the things that we can pass on to them really are to them.
And your commitment is commendable. I remember every now and then you'd give me a call. Hey, Gail. I'm like, Bill, what's going on? Yeah. But let us never take things for granted. Right. So many kids in the Wells Fargo brand, from a corporate citizenship standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, from just taking the time. I share on this podcast all the time. It's called The Game of Life. It's not a sports podcast, obviously. It's a mentoring podcast.
Right.
Because in the game of life, everybody makes the team, quote unquote, but how we play is up to us.
Right.
And kids have to overcome socioeconomic challenges, domestic challenges, and so insert mentor, insert that trusted friend and counsel, and all of a sudden, and give it time. Because no 2 children are alike. Just like I got 4 kids at home, and I got to deal with each of them separately and in a unique way. Speaking of mentoring,
let me just also say one thing.
ahead.
I think for folks who are listening,
yes.
I know in my 25 plus years of being in Miami, talk to people like Mark Eiglash.
Mark
Eiglash. Talking to Mayor Danny Gelber about his mentor, Bill Saunderson, who's been involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters on the Broward board, and Inez Ross up there. The single theme that runs through that is, this was the best thing I ever did in my life.
Incredible.
And I thought that I was going to impact this kid, this young girl, a young boy, and I thought, boy, I'm going to change their life. It worked the other way around. They changed my life.
That's right.
Every single one of the dozens and dozens of folks that I know have been involved as a Big would say that same thing. So
no doubt about it. And I never get tired of hearing that, because it's
I got
a two-way
goosebumps
benefit.
just thinking that. I mean, it's so true.
And the thing that mentors, Bigs need to remember is the organization will support you all along the way. And those calls that I made to you back then, in your role at the time, they were, Sakori is struggling in school this way. What can we do to help?
That's
and
right.
The agency, through your match support person or through the resources of the agency, can provide so many things to help the family and help the little.
Absolutely.
And so it's not just it's not just weekend outings and dinners here and there and sports events. It's all the other things that the agency provides that really make a difference, I think.
I'm taking you guys with me everywhere.
I
now,
can tell you, I
the
think
marketing
the
team.
other thing that Bill touched on a little bit is
Yes.
that it's not just that young boy or young girl; it's their entire family.
That's correct.
That I know again from my friends that have been a big that. It is really, the sense is that they've changed the trajectory of this family's life.
That's right.
First time a kid, maybe first in the family, go to college and maybe graduate from high school, and all of those firsts that are a result of having somebody who's, kind and caring and a little more knowledgeable of the world than they are at, 12 or 13 or 14.
That shows an interest in their life.
Yes,
No doubt about
exactly.
it.
A caring adult.
Well stated, gentlemen. I was kind of underlying when you all were speaking. I'm going to take you guys with me to every one of my meetings now.
We're
I'll
there,
just say,
man.
ladies and gentlemen, Pat and Bill, and I'll sit down. But no, the alumni bigs you mentioned, the personal impact that Bill, as an alumni big brother, has made in the life of this young man. Who mentored you, Pat? Because all of us can relate to a
Yeah.
trusted friend and counselor.
It's funny because I grew up in Long Island. I grew up in Hicksville, Long
Okay.
Island, up to high school, and then moved to Pennsylvania. But my dad was a lawyer. He was involved in the community. Kind of first generation to go to college as well. Did a lot of work with Irish American Society and Knights of Columbus and the church. So we did a lot of volunteering and met a lot of people. But it was older guys that were in my neighborhood. My dad wasn't a mechanic. My next door neighbor, had a small business fixing washers and dryers and had antique cars. So every Saturday or Sunday, or that my mom went calling for me, she just walked next door to the Kissick's house because I was probably under a 1910 Willys Knight, looking at an engine.
That's a car, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, it's a beautiful
Lost
old
me
car.
too.
But yeah, and so 1928 might have given it away, 1910. But so I spent time with those guys who taught me stuff that I was going to get at home. And the other guy, my next door neighbor, Mr. McGann, I love the guy. He was like a second father too, and he was just a handyman, could fix anything. Now, I'm not sure all of those skills did not rub off, unfortunately. My wife and kids would tell you that. But that's where I spent a lot of my time,
Yes.
hanging out with other guys. I learned fishing. My dad wasn't a fisherman. I learned to fish on, in Long Island Sound from a neighbor who, had a couple of kids, and I was always with them anytime they went fishing. So I had those older guys around me who I would, that were all different
Right.
backgrounds
Yes.
and races, but it was all a little bit of mix of helping make me who I am.
That's
And
beautiful.
was also fortunate to have a grandfather who was, an Irish immigrant that moved here when he was 16, and kind of this is the country that he loved, and I learned about what it was like to be engaged in your community and enjoy your heritage, and he spoke with a big thick Irish brogue, and that heritage was really important to us, and we spent a lot of time with him, so we learned from him and those things that you want your elders to pass down
Absolutely.
to the grandchildren. I was one of those ones who learned that from my grandchild, my grandfather.
A true sense of community. Bill, same question. Who mentored you and what did they teach you?
I'd have to say definitely my father. He's been passed away probably almost 30 years ago, but during those formative years, it was definitely him. He used to take me. We have a family business, and he would take me with him on Saturday mornings, and we'd eat at McDonald's on the way there for breakfast, and he'd say, "Don't tell your mother." And I'd sit there and just to watch his work ethic, and both my parents have a strong conviction that we've been fortunate in life and we need to give back, and that's just ingrained in our family's DNA. And I think that's from watching both my mother and my father, and starting a business from scratch, and as they tell, as I witnessed it, in the office all day long taking orders, and then working at night the next 8-10 hours till 2-3 in the morning, fulfilling those orders because they couldn't pay the people to come in and actually do it. So they do the office in the day, and then they go make what they sold during the night. So it was just, it was just amazing. And we were very lucky to have my grandmother live with us growing up, who was able to help, with the house and the kids. So she was also a big influence on me.
Knowing
You
your
learned
work ethic.
that lesson very well, my friend.
Thank you.
And your dad would be very proud
I
of you.
was
Thank
just
you.
about to say that,
Exactly.
Pat, and
Sorry,
you
I
beat me to
didn't
no.
mean to
That's okay,
cut you
pal.
off
You
there.
beat me to the punch, but knowing your work ethic, those
Incredible.
mentors did a great job.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
No question. When we moved into our new facility here in August of 2016, Wells Fargo has made its mark on this beautiful facility, 46,000 square feet of what I call game-changing experience and platform for the kids and families that we serve. The Wells Fargo Day of Service.
Yeah.
You've made your mark literally throughout this facility, inside and out. Tell us about just not only the commitment, that's clear, but the Wells Fargo Day of Service, and specifically what you've done here in the building.
I will. And, first of all, I want to start by saying thank you to Carnival for their support to make this a reality.
Shout out to Linda Cole.
Love Linda Cole. And all of the donors who helped make this happen. Wells Fargo is one of many. But our Day of Service is really special. A couple of years ago, 4 years ago now, we started South Florida and Central Florida doing a Day of Service. We went out in the community. Many of the partners who we have people on boards and engage with to find a way that we could put our people and their time and kind of sweat equity into those organizations. So 2 years ago, we did our first project here at the new building, and we did partnered with Bill and his wealth folks that came out here, put their suit aside for a couple hours, and it was a nice, hot, sunny day, if I remember, and mulched the whole place, put plants in. We built inside. We had bookshelves that we were building. We were putting those books on those shelves, and just a transformational day. This past year,
well, don't forget about the purple picnic table.
I was going to say that.
Bill painted part of my T-shirt,
but
I don't want to
Bill
put that
might
on.
still have some paint on one
somewhere.
of those shirts. Exactly right. So yeah, that was one thing we noticed you didn't have is any place for your staff to kind of. And the building had just been open, literally.
Sure.
So we put a couple of tables out there, and I know when I come by, I see them out there enjoying it.
Yes,
so that's been great. Last year we did a little bit different. Instead of just a couple of parts of the state doing a day of, we actually did a statewide day of service.
Wow.
So we did 130 projects statewide. I'm very proud to say that, from Palm Beach to Key West, where I have responsibility for 60 of those projects happened in our footprint.
Incredible.
And so we did a Broward project with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and then here as well. And we did. Bill was, again, one of those very hot middle of September days, and Bill was outside with pickaxe and shovels putting in trees and bushes, and we had a beautiful mural outside, another area for the staff to go, actually with, I guess I understand, the bigs and the littles go out there. And then we engaged a local artist who joined us and put murals on the second floor, and just, it's one of those things that just our folks absolutely love doing. And I said the best part of this project would be coming on Monday when you see the kids come in and see those faces. And I didn't have a chance to do that, but I've done that at many, many other projects in previous lives. And it's just, there's nothing like putting your time and energy into it and then seeing it, kind of all year long. And I'm looking forward to finishing the podcast and going back down to the second floor and seeing what those murals look like.
No, it's a beautiful thing. And the kids, it's just amazing how art does that.
Yeah.
Kids, different kids see different things. Like, I see a flower over here. But it's so important. We're here in the Game of Life. Pat Morris, Bill Jones, Wells Fargo, a brand that continues to give back to the community. If you're listening to this podcast, you want to get involved, 305-644-0066. Follow the lead of Wells Fargo, because they're certainly making a difference. Pat, let me stay with that context of giving back for just a minute. Here it is, February 1st, Black History Month. Now, in my life, Black History is every single day.
You're right.
I don't just stop. So on March 1st, it's like, I'm sorry, let me go back to normal. I've been black my whole life, just for the record. Just want to let you guys know that. But here's the thing.
Glad you clarified that.
Just want to make clear, make that clear. But here's the thing. What, in the space of just giving back and the intentionality with some great projects, when I think about the kids we serve, when we think about the reality of mentoring, 7 out of 10 kids we serve are children of color.
Yeah.
Right. Mostly boys. The waiting list is mostly boys, mostly black boys. And so it's so important to have a great brand like Wells Fargo to give back. What are some of the creative things you all have done in the space of just Black history?
I got to tell you, we take the MLK Day celebration to heart around the country.
Beautiful.
And we've had MLK Day projects literally in every part of the country, and in fact even international. And in South Florida, in Palm Beach, we did a project with the YMCA up in Greater Palm Beach. In Broward, we did an amazing project with Ellie Leeds YMCA in Broward. And in Miami, we did a Saturday project with the Opelika CDC.
Beautiful. Where
members of our Black African American Team Member Network came out, and we partnered with a bunch of lines of business, and we actually planted an urban farm. with working with Willie Logan, one of
Yes.
a great leader in our
Yes.
community, and his great folks at Opelika CDC did a phenomenal project there. And then on the MLK Day holiday in Miami, we partnered with City Year that has for a long time, City Year United Way, done a phenomenal project, a full school beautification is the only thing I can say. And so our 30 or so team members that showed up, along with 600 other people from the community, and a lot of those young boys and girls you're talking about
Yes.
from Madison Middle School, came out and we transformed that school. City Year is an amazing organization, do
Yes.
amazing work, and they do some transformative projects. And so they've got core members that are at that school. And so for about a month before, they were there putting the murals on the wall, etching them out. I mean, really detailed things. And then the volunteers came in. Amazon was there, and a couple of other banks, and Carnival had some employees out there, I believe. So it was just an amazing, transformative day. And if you look at the 5 we did in South Florida, and you multiply that by another 12 or 15 that happened in Florida, by all of the states, literally thousands and thousands of people came out in honor of one man and his legacy of service, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And it was such a proud day to walk out of there and see the work that we had done, and know that around the country, his words are still as strong today as they were,
No doubt about it.
many, many years ago.
The
So
content of our character,
Absolutely
not so much
right.
the color of our skin. And let me just say this before we close out the show, Bill. For all those individuals and companies who are thinking about getting involved in the space of mentoring, individuals and companies, what's your message to them?
Just do it, and you won't be sorry. As Pat said, I've yet to meet a big that didn't get more out of it than the little, and I see the impact on the littles. And I think what's scary to a lot of people is I don't know what we'll do, I don't know what to say, I don't have the time. And the thing is that that call to the agency and working with the match support people, and also the people that match and set up the matches, they make sure that you're matched with someone who shares the same interests as you. It's amazing how well they do at putting people together that share a common interest. And then once you are matched, there's all different ways you can be involved, not just in the what I'll call the private activities, the one-on-one activities,
Sure.
where you have to come up with something to do. The agency has almost monthly
That's right.
a group event, whether it's out at Crandon Park or a Marlins game, if nothing else, just go on the agency. And that's what I did. The first year that I was matched with Sikori, I took advantage of almost every single agency-sponsored event. And what I did at those is I met other bigs. I got ideas on what to do. Yeah. I also, Sikori met other people his age, and then we found other couples, to hang out with, other bigs and littles that
Right.
we could hang out with. And then also it just gave me a ton of ideas of what we could do. And, it doesn't cost a lot of money. It's amazing, just the beach. Sikori had never been to the beach. Just going to the beach, just seeing things, and going to the nature center on Key Biscayne, and just a million experiences that he had never had. And so it's, what's really nice about the organization is they support you at every level, and they'll get you the idea, and it's not as scary, and it's not the time. The time is what you make available.
Absolutely.
And like Sikori was grateful for every minute he got, and he understood if I was traveling on business or wasn't able to see him that week. So I think the stated commitment is once a month, and I think that doesn't sound like that one day a month would be impactful, but it really is.
Absolutely. Wells Fargo, an incredible brand doing incredible things here in Miami and South Florida, all across this beautiful country. Pat Morris, Bill Jones, thank you for your corporate social responsibility. Thank you for your leadership, the friendship we enjoy. On behalf of the kids, I said it in the outset, I'll say it as we close. Thank you for what you're doing for the kids in South Florida. And for those listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the social media channels, there is no excuse for not getting involved. The cost of doing nothing is far too high. Thanks for being on The Game of Life.
Thank you, Gail.
That's another podcast. Happy Black History Month. Let's do what we can to change a kid's life every day, right now. Let's go. The Game of Life, where everybody makes the team, but how you play is up to you.